Okay guys, here we go. Paul Sumich here, and Whangarei house prices and the market in 2023 is going to... Wait for it. I just have to get this out of the way first. Disclaimer, I am not a registered financial advisor, and the opinions and what I'm going to talk about in the following video is not necessarily the opinions of the company I currently work for, and they may not necessarily agree with it. With that in mind, I'm able to talk about what I'm seeing out in the marketplace at the moment and what I think is going to happen. So with that boring bit out of the way, let's get into it. Been talking a lot lately to a lot of people, and goes without saying, no matter what the market's doing, the number one question we always get as real estate salespeople is, what's the market doing? How's the market? There's lots of responses and things like that, but really the market is dependent on what your situation is. If you're looking to buy, if you're looking to sell, if you're looking to invest, so that's one side of it. And then there's the general what's the market doing? So when most people ask how's the market, they're sort of asking what's it like in general, and then how does that affect their own personal situation. So the title of this video is my predictions for the Whangarei housing market in 2023. So let's get that out of the way first, and then we can talk a little bit more about it. So my predictions are for 2023 that house prices are going to flatten a little bit more. You know, we've got that classic saying that you've heard 100 times if you've ever had an agent in your house, that we haven't got a crystal ball, so we don't really know. But that's a bit of a cop-out answer, really, to be honest. We do kind of know. You've got an eye on the market, you've kept an eye on what's happening with recent sales and listings and how long those properties are taking to sell in the area of the house that you're currently talking to. And then you need to factor in what you see coming down the road, because when you do an appraisal for a house, it's not what the house is going to sell for today, because it takes a couple of weeks. If you've got everything sorted, it can be as little as 7 days, but it takes a couple of weeks to actually get a house on the market. So when you do the appraisal, you have to think about, I'm on the market a month from now, possibly longer. What are we going to look like then? What's likely be the situation at that stage? So although you hear heaps out there, we don't have a crystal ball. No, you don't. But you should have knowledge about the market that you're working in, and you should be able to offer advice to people. So, you know, I don't mind putting it out there. I feel that the market in general, every situation is different, and we'll talk about a couple of specific situations soon. But in general, the market pricing, we've already seen it. You know, auction results are way down. People are pricing their properties and doing readjustments weekly at the moment to just capture those buyers where the property then has the price point where value and price meet on that house. So it's hard to do that in a falling market. You're chasing the property down. There's a great saying from a really well-known auctioneer at a different company than I work at the moment. So, but Aaron, love it. Markets move faster than people. So by the time you've decided as a seller to go for that price adjustment, if you don't do it big enough, it's not going to make a difference. So, you know, if your house was priced at $949 after auction or after the set date of sale or whatever, and you go, okay, let's make it $910, it hasn't even gone down a price range on Trade Me. So the same buyers are still seeing it. So you really need to look at doing a decent chop to get the activity around your property. So anyway, back to the predictions. So yeah, house prices in general are gonna flatten down a little bit, which is a polite way of saying continue dropping. Why is that, in my opinion? We've just had the three words that now everybody talks about, the OCR, the official cash rate. So we had that rise in late November, up to currently it's 4.25. And there is talk of another rise in February. They just don't know how much. So it's either gonna be another 0.5 or 0.75. I'm 50-50 at the moment. I think the damage has been done a little bit, probably more carnage than the Reserve Bank was probably expecting, and they need to factor in the time of year. It's coming up to Christmas, and people are already commenting that oh my God. So another 0.75 in February to take it to 5. I'd be extremely surprised if that happens, but you know, hey, it's going to go up. We just don't know by how much. And when we factor in the OCR, how does that affect the banks and the interest rates? So the OCR, this is all roughly speaking. So on average, you need to look at the OCR and add about 2% or a little bit more on top of that to what the banks are charging, because as we all know, banks are in the money market, and they are there to make money and make a profit, and they're entitled to make a profit, as we all are that are working. We don't want to work for nothing necessarily. So it's the profit margin that we're talking about. And what's actually quite interesting at the moment is averages. So this is so across all of New Zealand, but I was talking to somebody yesterday, and it was true for their situation in Whangarei. So the average for New Zealand is kind of the average for Whangarei as well. So at the moment, average Kiwi's got a $500,000 mortgage, and the average interest rate is 3.8%. Of that, 20% of those mortgage holders are due to come off their current term by the end of February, which ties in with another OCR rate rise. At the moment, so 3.8% on a $500,000 mortgage, you are paying about $537 a week on that. If you come off your term and you need to readjust it and fix it in, or whatever you're going to do for the next term, you're likely going to be over 7%. People are trying to guess what it's going to be. The floating rate at major banks is already 7.99, and across the two biggest banks, ASB and Westpac, all of their current term rates are already over 7%. So the chance of it bumping up a little bit more, bearing in mind we haven't had that other official cash rate announcement in February yet, it's going to be over 7%. No doubt about that. So let's just factor that in. So average Kiwi, $500,000 mortgage, 3.8% they're currently paying on that, which is about $537 a week. 20%, so that's 1 in 5 Kiwi mortgage holders is coming off their current term between now and the end of February. They're going to be at 7%, but what does that mean? What does that actually mean for you? So what it means is at 6.5%, which has been a little bit generous because, as I've just said, two of the major banks have already, all of their rates are over 7, but at 6.5, it bumps up your mortgage repayments to $729 a week, which is an extra $192 you have to find. If it's at 7%, which, let's face it, after February it's going to be, that's $767 a week, and you were paying about $537. That's an actual difference of $230 a week that you have to find. And that's where it's going to get a little bit interesting, a little bit tough. But the worst thing you can do is nothing. The worst thing you can do is sit here and go, oh my God, I'm going to have to sell my house. Things aren't going to be good, etc., etc. But what you need to do is plan. So first off, and no matter what, always recommend when you're talking about property, you need to go and see your bank or your broker. That's the first person you go and see. Before you get an appraisal on your property if you're looking to sell, before you go to open homes if you're looking to buy, go and see your bank, go and see your broker, get a plan. They'll be able to tell you where you're currently at and what it's going to look like. But for my 2 cents worth, if you are coming off that mortgage, and it's the old thing, and I used to disagree with my parents on this quite a lot. They were always, there's that old saying, look after the pennies and the pounds will take care of themselves. Yes, that's true. But if you need to find an extra $230 a week, cancelling your Netflix subscription of $15 a month is not going to do it. I had a cafe business in Auckland during the GFC in 2008, 2009. And what we found, it was a hybrid cafe bike shop. What we found is that the blingy bikes, the $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 bikes, they weren't selling over that time. But what we were finding people doing is buying coffees still, because back then it was $3, but now they're like $5. So a $5 cup of coffee, if things are tough at home and work's a bit stressful and there's pressure financially with the home unit, why would you give up that one little luxury you have to look forward to every day or every couple of days? So, even if you had a coffee a day times 5 days, that's $25, and you've got your Netflix subscription you've just cancelled. Those are little luxuries that put a bit of a bright spark in your day. So do what, hey, look, if you want to cut everything down and tighten all the reins and get through it that way, that's an option for sure. But but you're $230 a week short. Your $25 of coffees is still over $200 gap, so it's not going to work. Cost of living in general is up a little bit, so what's an option? Hey, as much as we wouldn't like to entertain that situation with our current family, if it meant we had to get a flatmate in or a boarder or rent out a room for 6 to 12 months at a couple of $100 a week, why not? There you go. That's pretty much fixed the situation right there, and you can carry on and do what you do. But like I mentioned, before it gets to that point, go and see your broker, go and see your bank. It might be that you can adjust your term length. It might be you can have your mortgage split up into different parts so that the payments are spread out differently and you're not coming off all at the same time in the future, which is something that you should always do. I mean, the worst scenario at the moment is if they bought 12 to 18 months ago and you took bad advice or no advice and you only fixed for 12 months. I'd really hate to be in your shoes at the moment if that's the situation, because that's just bad timing all around. And it was very hard to predict what was going to happen, but unfortunately the circumstances have conspired against you and you're going to find yourself in a bit of a hole. But for most of us, it's just going to be a bit of planning. It's going to require some thought and getting through it. Don't just bury your head in the sand. The media loves to sensationalize stuff, and they're going to talk about mortgagee sales and things like that. It takes a long time to get to a mortgagee sale. It takes a couple of months. You miss a mortgage payment, the bank sends you a grumpy letter and this and that, and they give you a chance to catch up and do these sorts of things, and it's quite a process. If you don't ignore that and go down the road and do a mortgagee sale, because it's not the best way to do it. If you get yourself in a bit of strife, go see your bank, go see your broker. If you decide that you do need to sell, come and talk to a real estate person, get a plan together. Don't just leave it up to the banks to do a mortgagee sale on you, because it won't maximize the result. And by that stage, things have gotten a little bit out of hand and hard to bring back to control. Anyway, what else have I got to talk about? I've just got some notes here. What we need to think about, though, is finance is really only one of the 5 big factors that causes people to move. So it doesn't really generate headlines if a newspaper says Tim Smith got a new job and is selling his house because he's moving to Australia. It's much more of a sensational title if it's Tim Smith is having a mortgagee sale and forced to sell. But, the finance situation is one of the 5 big things. There's downsizing, there's a growing family, there's job opportunities, there's all these other factors that people have with life going on. So the property market is still going to continue to roll this year. It's just, and I get it, we've talked to people, but most people know. And, the market for the last 18 months has been phenomenal. It's been growth that we've never seen before. So, but what comes up must come down. So market cycles are getting a little bit faster. So if we went up so fast in the last 18 months, it's only reasonable to expect we're going to come down quite fast. But the higher levels that control government and finances and things like that, it just feels a little bit like in New Zealand at the moment. Someone's foot on the gas and slams on the brakes. Foot on the gas, slams on the brakes. It's kind of like when I was learning to drive, with a clutch and a manual, I was hopping around all over the place trying to sort out changing gears. But if we were humming along and the economy was great and money was cheap, and then forecasting out, they thought, hey, look, we're in 5th gear doing 120 Ks on the motorway. Maybe we need to drop it down to 4th and then 3rd in a couple of months and just ease it on back, instead of just jamming on the brakes, chucking your seatbelt off and opening all the doors at the same time, because that's what it feels like. It just feels like it's been a really abrupt and violent change. But, we all have to get through that at the moment and work it out. So I just want to leave you with, because it's easy to keep talking about this forever, and hey, look, I'm always here for a chat about your situation and your circumstances. But what I want to leave you with about the market is, and I get it, just to carry on a little bit about that conversation, is if you weren't even really thinking about it, but you read about the paper and the results and the sales that were happening around your area and things like that. If you sell this year, if you need to, in the next 12 months or so, it's very unlikely you're going to get the same money as what your neighbour did last year. So John down the road got lucky. He sold for 1.2, for example, and then you have to come on the market because your kids have left home and they're not coming back. They're at uni now or whatever, and it's okay. It's time for us to do a change. You might have a same or slightly better house, but the market's going to dictate that you may not get that 1.2. But look, to be fair, you never had it. It was on paper. It was the values of the sales based around your property. It's not like you had $100,000 sitting under the bed. Well, maybe you do, but that's a whole different story. So it's not like you had $100,000 sitting under your bed and someone's come and taken it away from you. It's just that perceived loss that we're a bit gutted about. And it can work both ways. We sold a little unit in Auckland years and years ago, and it's over doubled. It's ridiculous what it would be worth now. But hey, at the time we needed to do something else, and it worked for us. And it's the same here. It's a little bit frustrating that you didn't time the peak of the market, you didn't maximize the sale, but for whatever reason you're selling now or in the future, and at that point in time the reason for selling is legitimate for you, and the buyers are going to dictate the value of your house through their offers. And if it works for you, you take it and move. If it doesn't work, then you stay the owner of the house. But most people, then when they come onto the market, are pretty committed to sell because that's their plan. And just bear in mind, just one last thing to leave you with is property's a long-term game, and over time, generally, you're always going to win. So on average, in Whangarei, house prices are up over 50% from 3 years ago, and over 75% from 5 years ago. So that's a great return in that time. So if you bought over 5 years ago and you're going to sell in the next 6, 12, 18 months, you're going to do okay. That's the long and short of it. You're going to be okay. You're not going to make the cream on top. You're not going to have that little cherry on top that maybe your neighbour got last year and you still remember it, but you didn't actually have that money. So you haven't actually lost anything. And that's important to remember as we go into this market for 2023. And the thing is, the market's always changing. And what's important is we keep an eye on the market in general, but it's at that point in time, the market is the market of one. It's your house with your plan, your decision about when you sell and what for, but then the price is determined by the buyers that are in the market at the time. And with interest rates going up a little bit and things getting a little bit tougher, the buyers won't have access to the same amount of cash that they had last year either. So that's going to affect things from that side of things. But it's not any one person individually's fault. It's just what it is at that point in time. So let's focus on a market of one. And when you need to talk about your plans and moving forward, then I'm always here for a chat. I'd love to help you out. Chances of getting a street record and celebrating that sold sticker are diminishing, but hey, you never know. There's always times to be pleasantly surprised, and what it comes down to is if your property suits exactly what a buyer's looking for and they've missed out on a couple of things, they're still going to pay over the odds. They're still going to pay above market for your property because it fits exactly what they're looking for. And that's the trick, matching a buyer that really wants your property, values it more than everybody else, to get them to connect with your property, and then everybody's happy. You can move on with your life and off we go. So as we close out 2022, let's look forward to 2023. And if the circumstances change and your plans need adjusting, you need to do some stuff, then give us a call. We're always here, happy to talk about things and work out a plan that's specific to you to get you moved. So have a great holiday period, look after yourselves, enjoy the summer, and we'll catch up. Cheers, you guys.